Victoria Rader here with My Freedom Center. And today, what we've got for you is a wonderful program that we're referring to as Resilience Factor. So, Resilience Factor with My Freedom Center. As you know, our purpose is to lift and to inspire, to encourage, and to equip for survival, stability, success, and significance. Those of us that find ourselves struggling with overwhelm, with outside stressors included but not exclusive to those of either addiction or abuse or just the overall tremendous overwhelm. And so, of course, the big factor of those that we're reaching out to and trying to help our amazing COVID first responders, because those are the people that find themselves, as all of us, as the global society, being overwhelmed by this unprecedented amount of pressure related to COVID and the economic repercussions that come with that, and the family and relational repercussions and financial repercussions that all come from that. We're all overwhelmed. But then there are those of us that need to take care of our overwhelm and of our physical overwhelm, our physical condition, while being overwhelmed themselves. And so hence comes the factor of resilience. And while I could talk about what resilience is, I wanted to, at this point, introduce to you our wonderful guest from Britain, Shane Thompson. Shane, if you want to wave to everybody.
Hello.
And
Across the ocean.
Shane has a degree in psychology with master's in performance psychology and has done extensive research in the field of resilience. And so the way we're going to build our program is I'll turn time first to Shane to talk a little bit about different aspects of resilience. And then for those of you that want to take it from a practical approach to more of an application approach and look at different ways of releasing the energy of exhaustion, of overwhelm associated with not knowing how to push through, with remembering how to be resilient. And then I'm going to take over and take us through a couple of very empowering exercises. So Shane, tell us what resilience is in sports and in life, and how would our viewers and our listeners today, whether they are the COVID first responders or pretty much any one of us, how would we apply, that knowledge to our everyday life?
Yeah, cool, for sure. I mean, resilience, I suppose the best place to start is discussing sort of what it means and what it isn't. I think there's a lot of perception that resilience is something that you're just naturally good at, or, this idea of you're just very good at coping with pressure. You've got those people that are just very good at coping and just others seem that they're not. And that, I think, is a big misconception. Resilience is something that can be learned. It's not some magic power. It takes time and patience and practice. And I mean, if you think about individually, like your own individual resilience, it's a very dynamic process. It's not just you are resilient or you aren't. It's this idea of sort of leaping back. It actually comes from Latin, resilire. It comes to leap back. That's exactly what it means. And it's this ability to sort of positively adapt, is what they use, to bounce back from a situation. And there's also, and a lot of people don't know about this, but it doesn't actually have to be just your own resilience. It can be your team resilience. It can be a group of you. And of course, a lot of our COVID first responders do work in teams, at least when they first arrive at work or something like that. Maybe they do go off by themselves, but there is that initial ability to be in a group. And I mean, the difference is here is team resilience is fantastic. And I encourage a lot of people to view it more as a team effort. This idea that it's sort of everyone's collective resources to be able to cope with a given situation rather than just your own. So, I mean, in terms of a first sort of strategy, that is something that I definitely encourage people to sort of come together and realize that being able to adapt to a situation works much more effectively in a group. A really interesting thing about resilience that maybe some people don't view it as is it can be separated into two parts. There's something called robust resilience and rebound resilience. What that means in plain English is robust resilience is just your own ability, and this takes a bit of self-reflection for sure, and understanding how you respond to situations, but it's basically your capacity to cope. What is your, what they call resilience bandwidth, i.e. what is your breaking point? You know, at what point do you find like you just can't cope anymore? That's robust resilience. And then you've got rebound resilience, which is slightly different. And sometimes it's okay to not be able to cope. Maybe your breaking point is quite low, but what about your rebound resilience? Your rebound resilience is exactly how it probably sounds, is this ability, how quickly can you bounce back? You know, we're all human. At the moment, we're definitely all human. Our coping strategies are probably a lot less because it's a strange time. It's all brand new. How quickly can you bounce back? And there's definitely strategies around that. So I guess, yeah, that's kind of essentially what a lot of, from the sports world, especially from the elite sports world, a lot from psychotherapy and counseling will kind of view resilience in this way. Mm-hmm. In terms of how you can actually cope with it, as I mentioned, it's there's the ability to self-reflect on yourself. That's definitely an important stage one, realizing that it's okay to not be okay. And
so let me pause you for a second, Shane, as we're kind of to make sure that I understand correctly. So you're talking about two different types of resilience, and the robust one and the breaking point kind of one. So and then as you're going to be giving us these strategies, are these strategies for both types of resilience? Let's say, what is that breaking point? How do I prevent, if you will, having my family, my loved ones getting to that breaking point? You know, give me that relationship between two types of resilience, what to watch for, and then as I think we're naturally going into the strategies, what do I do? You know, how do I cope, in other words?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, with relation to just your robust resilience, just your raw ability to be able to cope, can be sort of trained in many ways. It definitely can. But one of the main ways, and I definitely recommend, is just watching what you say to yourself, for sure. So this idea of positive self-talk, we've all heard it as positive affirmations, and sort of a lot of the elite athletes will do this a lot before competition, right? Because if you think about it, the differences between elite athletes and, you know, our COVID first responders is obviously there's a lot more risk involved for COVID first responders, for sure. But there's an element of they both voluntarily put themselves under pressure, right? So there's definitely a similarity there. But when you talk about robust resilience, yes, definitely watch what you say to yourself. You know, what are you saying to yourself? Try and think of yourself as in the third person. You know, how you treat your friends should be also how you treat yourself. And in that situation, watch what you say to yourself, for sure. That is definitely something that's important. There's also another really interesting way of trying to build your resilience. So that rebound, so building back up, is something called pressure inurement, which what that means is actually putting yourself deliberately for training purposes. So maybe this is not necessarily when you're actually going out, you know, whether you're a nurse or a surgeon or a doctor or something like that, or a firefighter, but actually putting yourself in that situation. You can either do that through just picturing it and kind of feeling it, or actually with support, putting yourself through it. And ensuring, though, that you have the same level of support at the same time. That's really key. A lot of people will, a lot of athletes will throw themselves in the deep end and then sort of burn out very quickly because they didn't have the same level of support that they require. So a great way of building resilience, especially your rebound, is slowly build up the challenge, slowly build up, make it more and more challenging each time. But at the same time, making sure that your level of support is going up at the same time too. Again, we're only human. So it's important that you do have that support. So yeah, does that make sense?
Sorry, it does. It makes perfect sense. So how would I go about looking for support? If I find myself already thrown into the middle of this chaotic overwhelm and I'm looking for ways to cope, what would I do to look for support? How do I create these teams you're talking about?
I really think it starts with an open discussion. I mentioned at the beginning that there is a misconception that, and I think this has been big for, a good couple of years now, especially. And this idea that, being able to not cope or you're stressed or something like that can be seen as a sign of weakness. And that for sure is where you start with your team and have an open discussion about the fact that actually it's not a weakness at all. And it's something that is human. And there are things that you can do to build that and stop you from feeling weak, because it's definitely a perception rather than an outcome. And in terms of where you find that support, well, it's whoever you feel comfortable with. Who do you place trust in, or at least where you feel that someone would listen and wouldn't feel judgmental towards you or something like that. But in terms of sort of if you're in a business and experiencing definitely pressure there, even at this point, what kind of culture are you experiencing in your business or your organization? Is it very high pressure and not much support, which I think a lot of people are responding in that way right now. They're not thinking too much about how we can support yourself. There's a lot of selfless people, especially with the COVID first responders. And I think it's important that this session is amazing for you because you're actually looking after yourself. You're giving time for yourself so you can give back more, essentially. So for sure, that's where I'll definitely start. Your family as well is a great place. You mentioned at the beginning that we're talking about COVID first responders, but yeah, it's also you at home. You don't have to be necessarily a healthcare worker or emergency services. You are at home. We all have a responsibility to look after our family right now. So just being there for your family is also very, very important.
Amazing. Well, let me ask you this question. Do you yourself have some kind of a, I don't know, favorite technique or maybe something you default to increase your resilience yourself? What do you do to stay resilient? You're one of the most resilient people I know, by the way. I've seen you bounce back from being defeated and really live what you're teaching here, which is acknowledging that things were hard and overwhelming and then saying, I've got this and I'm going to bounce back. And so I've seen you demonstrate it in your life. So how does it look for you from inside? What's kind of your secret path to resilience, if you will?
Yeah, you know what? I've always put myself deliberately under pressure. So I probably use that pressure inurement technique a lot, where I'll put myself under pressure. But then the difference is that I'm okay when I know that I've broken down. So we're talking about that resilience bandwidth, what point, where's my breaking point? I'm very self-aware of my breaking point. And I'll admit to it. I'll put my hands up and I'll say, you know what, I've reached my limit. I need to rest. But then next time, my resilience bandwidth has got even a little higher. So now I'm at the point where I feel like my resilience is pretty high. My bandwidth is pretty high. So when I put lots of things on myself and I challenge myself, I get excited by it. And this actually leads to my ultimate technique, really, is that I flip resilience on its side and I say, well, resilience is a great thing to sort of help you cope from a bad situation, to bring you back to where you were before. But resilience doesn't need to be a bad situation. You can be resilient and outperform what you did previously, which is the bit that I love doing. Is once I've put myself under that pressure and I've almost got to my breaking point, I've realized that I've taken the next step up above my performance before. And you start getting to this world that you might have heard of, where you start thriving. You start actually thriving on the situation. And I enjoy it. And obviously I enjoy it because I love helping people. You'll have your own self-motivation, and it definitely, there's an element of being honest with yourself about what your self-motivation is, to do what you do. And that definitely helps me keeping my goal in check and in line and in the distance. I've always got a keen eye on it. So that's definitely what I do for sure.
Oh, great. That's great. I know both you and I think very highly and love Brian Buffini, who is a public speaker and trainer, is kind of a real estate guru coach. And he has this quote that I've heard him say, which is the setback is a setup for a comeback. And I think in a nutshell, that probably is the resilience that you've just described. That I don't know what great thing we're preparing for as a globe, going through setback after setback after setback. But I guess the message would be, let's just think what a phenomenal comeback we are working on as human family and human species. So amazing, amazing, amazing. Well, I want to thank you so much for your time, Shane. And if you would like to stay with us, you're welcome to. And any parting words to our audience if you need to run, or you're going to stay so I can go on with our exercises?
No, I'm happy to say, but in terms of just as a final comment, I think all I'll say is that, it's okay to feel that it's a challenging situation. Don't fear failure for sure, or feel like you failed, or feel like you can't cope, or the fact that you can't cope is a failure. That's okay. It really is okay. Think about that rebound resilience. How quickly can you bounce back? That's the important part for sure. So yeah, that's definitely
huge.
Yeah,
that's just huge. Well, thank you so much for the input, and I've surely enjoyed it, and I hope that all of us that are watching it together have enjoyed it as well. So I will kind of take over here, guys, and we'll talk to you a little bit about, those amazing experiences and emotions that Shane talked about as contributing to experiencing the need for resilience, the feeling of not being able to cope, the feeling of being at your breaking point, not being able to move forward. You are at a breaking point. The self-talk that you say, I've had it, I can't move ahead, that internal dialogue, and while being validated, and I loved how Shane said it's very important for you to have self-awareness of that, if not expressed and released over time, gets trapped as the emotion energy in your body. We are an emotional being, meaning we're the energetic being through which the emotions go through. If the emotions don't have a way to travel through us, they get trapped. And if the emotions get trapped, they cause incredible levels of overwhelm and even physical disease, physical exhaustion, and so forth. So at My Freedom Center, we implement emotional freedom technique to release trapped emotions. So we're going to walk you here through the sequence of tapping on pressure points, that by tapping on them and stating the prompt for the feeling that you might be experiencing during this time of trying to cope the best you can. Every time you will be tapping, you'll be releasing that feeling. Once we go through that sequence, we'll go back to that number one coping mechanism that Shane mentioned, which is self-talk and self-affirmations, and we'll affirm, I'm resilient, I've got this. So we'll release the negative trapped emotion. We'll affirm the ability to cope and move forward. And then I'll walk you through a beautiful visualization of stepping into the flow of energy of resilience. And I know for those of you that are going to walk through this 1, 2, 3 step process, you will feel palpably the empowerment of increasing your levels of resilience. And tomorrow will indeed, it will be a better day. Tomorrow will be a better day. So let's just go ahead and do that. And without explaining too much through the technique, we're going to do what's called a setup, and I'll just have you guys repeat after me. Before you do the setup, I want you to kind of assess your body. Close your eyes for a second and just kind of assess with this being at a breaking point, How close are you to it? How close are you to not being able to cope? So with 10 being the highest, the most charged inability to cope. So if you're at 10, you're saying, I am there. I cannot move. I'm broken. I'm at a broken point. I know I have to get up tomorrow, and I don't think I can. That's the 10. I've had it, right? And then at a 1 being, hey, I'm ready to go at it. I'm ready to do it again. So where are you at a number of your resilience, lack of resilience, right? At that breaking point. So kind of come up with that number. And we'll be referring to it as we release the trapped emotion of associating with that breaking point energy. All right, you guys are ready? So let's just repeat it after me. Even though I'm at my breaking point, I deeply and completely love and accept myself. We'll do it 2 more times. Even though I'm at my breaking point, I deeply and completely love and accept myself. Even though I am at or near my breaking point, I deeply and completely love and accept myself. Tapping the top of your head at my breaking point. Can't cope. Inside the eyebrow, at my breaking point, I can't cope. Outside the eyebrow and the heart, it's hard to cope. I'm at my breaking point, hard to cope. Under the eye, on the hard, not the soft of the bone. I'm at my breaking point. I'm at my breaking point. Under the nose, hard to cope. I can't cope. I can't cope anymore. Middle of the chin, I'm at my breaking point. I can't cope. I can't cope. The inch below your collarbone an inch below. I'm at my breaking point. I'm at my breaking point. I can't cope. It's hard to cope. And now under the armpit, about 2-3 inches under the armpit. I can't cope. I can't cope. Repeating the sequence. I'm broken. I'm broken. The system is broken. The system is broken. Nothing works. Nothing works. At my breaking point. At my breaking point. I can't cope. I can't cope. This is too hard. This is too hard. This is too much. This is really too much. Can't do this anymore. I can't do this anymore. I have no ability to cope. No ability to cope. Can't do this anymore. Too much. At my breaking point. At my breaking point. Really too much. Really too much. Don't know how to move forward. Don't know how to move forward. I don't have resilience. I have no resilience. I got nothing in me. Nothing in me. I got nothing to give. Got nothing to offer. Nothing to offer. Let's take a big deep breath in and breathe out. With your eyes closed, feel a little bit how some of the blockages have left. How there's a little bit more light energy in your body. And we're going to continue with tapping for the remainder of this breaking point and inability to cope. So starting from the top, remainder of lack of coping, remainder of too much, remainder of this is too much, remainder of I can't do this, remainder of I can't do this, remainder of this heavy feeling of overwhelm and stress. Remainder of not being myself. Any remainder anywhere of this feeling. Any remainder anywhere of this feeling. Any remainder anywhere of this feeling. Beautiful. Let's take another big deep breath in and out. And we're going to clear the rest of that trapped emotion from our bodies. If you're feeling that you are at 2 or 1, then these final steps will be very powerful. If you're still feeling at 4, 5, 6, then I would recommend as you finish this sequence that you go back to the video that will be there for you as a recording and tap again through the first 2 full sequences, okay, that we've done. But if you're at about 1, 2, 2.5, 3, we're going to finalize the sequence by keeping your chin parallel to the floor with your feet on the ground, and the feet is always on the ground. You keep them always on the ground, but especially now, the feet on the ground, the chin parallel to the floor. You'll be moving your eyes 3 times. 1, 2, 3. On the floor, looking straight and looking up as far up as you can go. Okay? And as you will be doing that, following my lead, you'll be tapping what's called a gamut point, this little point between 2 fingers, just tapping. And so the head is straight, the eyes on the floor, everybody, looking down. And repeat after me. The remainder of this energy of hopelessness and not being able to cope. Looking straight ahead, the remainder of this energy of hopelessness and not being able to cope. All the way up, the remainder of this energy of hopelessness and not being able to cope. And we're going to repeat it by moving your eyes all the way down to the floor, chin parallel to the floor. Okay, any remainder of this energy of hopelessness and being at the breaking point. Looking forward, any remainder of this feeling of hopelessness and being at a breaking point. And all the way up, any remainder of this feeling of hopelessness and being at a breaking point. Beautiful. Take a deep breath in with your eyes closed and breathe out. And continuing with your eyes closed, I want you to put your hand on your heart and kind of tap 1, 2, 1, 2, like a heartbeat would go. 1, 2, 1, 2. And now say out loud after me, I got this, and tap 1, 2. I got this. I got this. I'm resilient. I am resilient. I'm strong. I'm strong. I'm coping great. I'm coping great. I got this. I got this. I got this. Now lowering your hand down, staying with your eyes closed. If you're in a position where you can be standing and it's safe for you to be standing, and there's a flat, safe surface right in front of you, you may please stand. Otherwise, you can visualize this process. I want you to imagine that right in front of you is a beautiful circle on the floor. Beautiful circle on the floor. And as you're looking at that circle on the floor in front of you, you're noticing that there's beautiful energy being poured from above and into that circle. It's almost like a shower of energy. Notice how bright and brilliant that energy is. Imagine the beautiful, bright energy being poured like a water would into that circle on the floor. And make it even more intensified. And now imagine that that energy that's been poured there is the energy of resilience, is that much needed ability to cope and to bounce back. And now on 3, 1, 2, 3, and imagine or physically step into that circle and feel as that energy is being poured to and through every cell of your body. Allow your powerful brain and your subconscious to visualize how your whole body is absorbing this powerful flow of the energy of resilience. And as you are absorbing it, literally feel the new hope, the new energy, the new light surging through your body. Beautiful. Now opening your eyes while in that circle. And you can step out of the circle knowing that anytime you feel you lack resilience, anytime you feel you're at a breaking point, anytime you lack that ability to cope, you can close your eyes and see that flow of resilience. You can put your hand on your heart and say, I got this, and step and visualize. And that just couple second reset will free you to be able to reset your subconscious, your energy mind, to be able to cope with the daily overwhelm. And then, and I'm going to bring him back into the view here, and then as Shane has mentioned to us, find somebody to share this with so that you can create a team, so that you can relate to each other and through each other. So when you're down, you can text that person and say, I'm down. And they can remind you, you've got this, you've got this, you've got this. All right, guys, thank you so much. Shane, thank you so very much. Thank you for your tips on resilience.
No worries. Hopefully it'll help.
All right, guys. Well, since I still have Shane here for a minute, and if you have any questions to him, or if you had any questions about the technique, we'll just kind of hang here for a minute and see. I'm going to pull up some of our platforms, and I have a wonderful team here with us as well that is watching for any comments that we might have had. So I'll just open it for a few minutes for any possible comments. And if something occurred to you, Shane, during the exercise that maybe, is relating or related to what we're doing here, that would be great also. Let's see.
Yeah, I think a lot of what was going there is you were confronting some really difficult things, right? And the idea of verbalizing it is definitely a crucial, I mean, even from a research perspective as well, that's a really important exercise, is being able to confront the reality. And it's okay, it might be scary, but again, bring that team involved. And it's, if you don't feel comfortable verbalizing things as well, writing things down also is a great help. You can scrunch it up in a piece of paper and throw it away afterwards, or you can put it in an envelope if you're even too scared to do that, and say, I'm just going to put it away. I'll deal with it later, and you'll probably end up forgetting about it. But just as another way of kind of doing the same thing, right?
Fantastic. And we've got some beautiful comments just saying that it's very wise from Brianna Days. Bouncing back is the key for sure, and it's extremely powerful. So don't see any questions. If you guys have any and you post them later on whatever platform you post them, we'll find them and we'll find Shane for you to answer any any of them. Well, much love to all of you. Much love, Shane.
What's up?
Okay, we'll see you guys. Bye-bye.